Welcome to the Hopenning, the place where hope is happening, with your hosts Fran Cadrone and Marina Theron-Monnery. For more information about Fran and Marina, or to apply to be a guest on the show, please go to our website www.hopenning.com. The Hopenning is for informal purposes only and is based on the research of your hosts, Fran and Marina. They, as well as their guests, are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from this podcast, which is not intended to replace any professional medical advice or care by medical professionals you are currently utilizing. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Fran and I in this 122nd episode of The Hopenning. We are so grateful that you have joined us today. And today we are going to talk about letting go. And it's a subject that is very close to my heart. But Fran, it was you who introduced this or came up with the idea of talking about letting go. So why is this important to you?
I think, Marina, like many people, um, I have been told over a countless number of years that phrase, just let it go, Fran, just let it go. And sometimes when you hear that, you're just not in the frame of mind to let it go. Sometimes you're in the frame of mind where you just need to think it through and process it and all of those things that go with it before you can actually let it go. So I think what the reason that I said, let's do a show on letting go was because this time of year, we're moving into the fall. We're in the fall already here in Canada. And this time of year is because of the days are getting darker, right? There's not as much light. There's more of a time of cozying in with people rather than being out into nature and stuff, just because of the time frame, being out at night. There's more time for self-reflection as well. So more time with people and more time with self-reflection. And before we can truly understand ourselves, we have to understand our patterns. So looking back, and I think that you and I and the people that watch this show are an exception to the rule. We are getting to become aware of how we behave and how we react and how we act. And so we can see our own patterns a little bit easier. And once we see our own patterns, we can work to change the pattern. So I think before we can let go, we have to know what it is that we tend to do. So for myself, I know what my tend to do is, and Marina, you probably are more aware of what you tended to do as well. So before I go into what I tend to do, tell me, what do you tend to do when you're involved in a situation of drama, or in a situation where you get hurt, or a situation where you know that it's necessary to let it go, just be zen? What was your first go-to before you started to get more healthy?
Well, it's kind of a huge journey for me because I really had to grow into not obsessing about things that I could not change. And before I learned the beautiful coping skill of letting go, I would beat myself up. I would try to change the situation. I would become super defensive. I would have sleepless nights about things. I'm going to give you a simple example. And I mean, this is not the kind of thing that I would have sleepless nights of. We all drive cars today. About a year ago, my husband had a meeting downtown. He didn't want to drive, so he asked if I would pick him up. And I did, and I did cut off a pedestrian, but really not on purpose. It was one of those things. We have all these bike lanes now downtown, and we have turning lanes and then non-turning lanes and one ways, and so it was a pretty chaotic situation. And I definitely had the right of way, but a pedestrian came actually, and I mean there's a lot more to this story, but walked into my car, and she walked on the red light. It the light was green for me, so she went the other way, and she walked straight into my car, and she started to slam on my car and scream, swear at me, and scream at me, and it freaked me out. So that's the kind of situation that I'm trying to explain, where I was really I think my heart was racing, and then when I picked Wayne up, I told him what just happened. But then in the past, I would have almost waited for the police to come knock on my door and say you did something wrong. Or in this situation, I'm like, I know I was actually paying attention. I did nothing wrong. Let it go. Let it go. And so that's the situation I want to explain. But my past has been literally littered by wanting to change situations that I could not control. And it would I would become obsessed with it. And I think the first time I learned the deepest and most difficult lesson in letting go was many years ago when I had a boyfriend who passed away. And I thought I can pray him back. I thought I could plead with him to come back. And there came a point where I had to surrender to something I did not have control over. And I had to let go and let life work out the way it had to for him to go. So that was the first very, very traumatic lesson for me in letting go, because before then, I would have almost think I had the power to pray him back to life, and it was not meant to be. How about you, Fran?
Mhm. You said a few things in there that resonate with me as well. Those ideas of, oh, I'm to blame, that feeling of blame, right? That taking on that guilt when, like you talk about the pedestrian, or you're totally in the right of way and you're totally, but all those, how can you be so stupid? Why didn't you do your research? Why didn't you know better? All of those words. So, and we've done this kind of work for a long time now. We've done a lot of self work. And yet, on our low moments, when we're tired or lonely or hungry, those low moments, we sometimes they come in, sometimes those words come back, those words that maybe somebody said to you in your childhood. I know definitely people said it to me in my childhood, right? How stupid can you be? Why weren't you paying attention? Can't you do anything right? You'll never learn. Those kinds of words that we heard from people that were usually older than us, right? Usually somebody in authority or somebody that we looked up to. They come in at those times when we're the most vulnerable. And so to go through that process of letting it go, it becomes such a physical thing. You talk about how um, you had it in your heart and you were worried that the police are going to be coming knocking on your door, right? Exactly. It's like you take all this blame on top of I take it, right? I take this blame on top of me, where it's like, Why didn't I know better? I should know better. At my age, I should know better. I should know better because I'm the mom. I should know better because I'm educated, or I'm a teacher, or I'm a hypnotherapist, or I'm a this and I'm a that and I'm this, right? I've got these accomplishments, but that makes it even worse sometimes because if you've got accomplishments, I definitely should know better. So you hear these words in your head, and that little girl inside, that little girl who was blamed for stuff and didn't know that uh, I didn't know any better. That all that stuff starts coming out, and that awareness of your pattern that we talked about before. Yeah, I know as a small little girl, I was the quiet one. I wasn't going to be the one that fought back. That wasn't me. Never was me, and probably never will be me. And so to understand that that's the little person right now who's feeling so afraid because she's being blamed for something. And yeah, I'm thinking it probably is me. So I go through 1,000 scenarios. A thousand scenarios. Did I do this? Yes. This, yes, this, yes, this, yes. So I mean, it is my right of way. I am the person driving the car, but she had the red light. All of those scenarios, they do go through my mind first, rather than thinking, I'm the one in the right here. She's not. That's my first go-to, is to think I did something wrong. But it's like you said, that's that part of the brain, the part of the brain which is the natural, quick first reaction, the primal part of the brain that probably developed first for your own safety. For your own safety, it developed first to say, yes, if I can fix this, I'll be safe. If I can find the solution, if I can control this, then I'll be safe. I'll still be part of the tribe. I won't be kicked out of the tribe. The tribe will still accept me. I'll still belong. I'll still be loved. And yet we're not that small child anymore who, the primal, I'm going to get kicked out of the tribe and die, isn't there anymore. And yet we revert back to it. But that conscious effort of knowing our pattern is number one. And once we rehearse that pattern, once we rehearse it, it becomes part of the thing that we just do. So our job now, as people who are healthy, is to start changing the pattern, start changing the natural thing that we naturally do. And that only takes conscious effort. It's like riding the bike, right? When we first learn how to ride the bike, everything is like, how do I stay balanced while still pedaling, while still watching what I'm doing, while still being aware of anybody else that's riding a bike? It never came easy at the beginning. And yet, once you learn how to ride a bike, you never forget. And so to become so consciously aware, just breathe, just breathe, rest, get your bearings. You're okay. That other person is okay. We're all okay. Did you mean to do anything wrong? No, no. Is it possible that you're correct, that you're in the right? Yes. Is it possible that she's incorrect? Yes. You're okay. Let it go. All of that, that's conscious effort. That's the repeated pattern now that we have to use. Let it go. Let's just drop your shoulders and breathe. It's hard.
Yeah.
It does not come easy, especially when it's a shocking event. When something is a shocking event, we tend to go back to our first go-to.
Well, I think there are so many layers to this as well, because we talk about, I think, something that we all experience in some part of life, maybe on a daily basis, where we do something that we could easily criticize ourselves for. And in that sense, to shake it off and just let it go. is one thing, but when life becomes quite serious and, for example, you get criticized, and how do you let that go? At what point do you change the patterns of not wanting to defend yourself? Or if there is a big drama happening in your life, at what point do you stop being involved and step away from it? And another one that I think is quite important is knowing the difference when is it worth your while getting involved and when to decide this is none of my business. And I think really always analyzing yourself. I always think on every day I'm handed a certain amount, call it a bucket full of energy. And every day I have to make the choice. How am I going to spend the energy? And make certain choices in if I get involved in certain dramas that at the end I cannot fix. It is out of my control, but it's going to upset me, and I'm going to take that bucket of energy that I have for that day and spill it all on something that's none of my business. And it's something that was probably one of the biggest lessons in my life is my my original family that has a lot of trauma and disharmony and constant bickering and constant name calling and constant gossip. At what point did I say enough? It wasn't overnight. And in some way, it still challenged me. But I had to put such strong boundaries in. And I had to decide if I get involved, can it help the situation? Is it really anything to do with me? And am I just going to upset myself again? And my husband was the one who really helped me with this because he said, Marina, when you get involved in that drama, you get very defensive. And I'm like, it's right. That's not who I want to be. I want to be loved. I don't want to feel I need to defend myself. So, okay, let go, let go. And then one other thing is when people speak or act in a way towards you that's painful, to realize that has nothing to do with me. They're talking from their own pain and they may target it at me, but it's none of my business. See them for the pain that they are functioning in and let it go. So those are hard lessons I had to learn in letting go.
Mhm. Yeah, it seems as though the more I get older and the more experience I have and the more self-reflective I am, that in situations where there's a high amount of trauma, um, especially if it's family of origin stuff, we all revert back to kids. We revert back to being 0 to 17 or whatever age it was when we were all interacting at home and as children. And when we get back into that dynamic, we become we tend to fall back into that family of origin pattern of relationship, how it all is working. And in order to let go, one of you has to rise above to become the adult, the one that looks down and says, okay, children, enough is enough, you know. The one out of this group of people, four of you siblings in your family, and 10 of us survivors in our family, there has to be somebody that gets up above the crowd and is the adult and is the one who's in their higher self to say, okay, this is unacceptable. I choose not to engage in this. I'll be over here. Because really, I can't control you siblings. I can't control what you're doing. You're gonna do whatever you do, but I can control myself and I can exit. I can leave this drama and be the adult in this situation. And so in order for these people, whoever it is, and it doesn't always need to be family of origin, it can be coworkers or it can be colleagues or it can be somewhere else in some situation. At least one person has to rise above the crowd to say intentionally and internally, I am choosing to be an adult here, and I am choosing to act with the integrity of an adult and um, and leave the situation, because until somebody does that, it's chaos. We revert back to whatever bully or the bully, the gossiper, the person who's always the one who's being picked on, the one who denies everything, the one who blames others, whatever that little thing that we used to do in our childhood comes out. It comes out. And because that's our pattern. So it's all interesting. It's all interesting when we stop and actually reflect on what is actually going on here
Yeah.
and why am I reacting the way I do.
I love that you bring in that we become that child again, and it takes a lot of work to realize that you don't have to react like a child anymore, that you can become an adult and thinking with a new brain in that situation because it does trigger us. I mean, I go back to the family of origin. When certain things happen, it takes us back to those situations in childhood where it first occurred, and we by default a lot of times go back to exactly the same reaction and response. So there's been a moment in my life when I realized that I'm not a fixer. I am the only person I can fix is myself, and to let them all go and learn their own lessons and their own dynamics with each other, and just step away and not have an opinion many times. Not, and I don't even want to say keep my opinion to myself. No, just not have an opinion. It's none of my business. I'm nobody's judge. And it's just been great for me to get to that point. It's almost a sigh of relief to realize it's not my responsibility. I have to learn my lessons, and I have to give them all the space to learn their own lessons. And then the turning point for me was to decide, who am I? How do I want to act? And if a situation that is triggering comes up again, how am I going to respond? Am I going to allow myself to become that child again? Or am I going to respond in love, in wisdom, in calmness, to take a deep breath and not just react on the spot, but just ground myself in who I really am so that I don't just jump back into the fire? Because every time I did, I got burned. I'm not doing that anymore. So
Mhm.
letting go is great. I had a situation where somebody asked me, not really asked, but a week ago, she was extremely upset because one of her decade-long best friends sent her a message and said, I don't want to be friends with you anymore.
Wow.
And it was devastating. And my advice to her was let it go. Understand that people come into our lives for seasons, most people. come into our lives for a season and not for a lifetime. And bless the friendship that you had and the growth that you could do through it, but let it go. Maybe she'll come back, but let it go. Just bless it. But then, Fran, the wisdom to understand that sometimes if there's, for example, if somebody breaks into your house and steals all your valuable, that's not the time to let go.
Well, exactly. That's right. There is a time, but and that's a fine line as well. We can be of the Buddhist mentality where it's all Zen. Everything is Zen. Never get attached to anything because really it's not ours to get attached to, right? Doesn't belong to us. Nothing belongs to us. So we can have that Zen mentality, or we can have the mentality that I am an independent individual, and the individualism part where it's like, yeah, I have this right. I have a right to it. So, I mean, there's got to be a healthy balance somewhere in there too, right? Because yeah, you could be Zen, but that's sitting on top of a mountain. And those people really, those sitting on top of the mountain are practically segregated in their own little Zen environment where they don't have these constant interactions with humanity in the meantime. So yeah, the letting go, it can be used very glibly, where it's just tossed around and without really heart, without any heart put into saying to somebody, just let it go, just let it go. So in order to make it authentic, in order to make, even when somebody's going through something, and they're sad and they are in mourning for the loss of their friend and all of that. Yeah, the best advice is to let it go, but to be so attached to this relationship with this human who's sharing their vulnerability with you, with me, to say, "Ah, I get it. I know how much you hurt. I get it. I understand your pain. I know your pain." Like I've told you before, my hero is Jesus. And he was the he was the strongest person of understanding humanity's pain because he was there with us, but he understood the pain, but he also was able to comfort us in our pain and help us to understand our own self-worth, our own dignity, regardless of the situation we came from, right? Regardless of our disease, our infirmity, our blindnesses, our can't hear, all of that. So um, the the beauty of the relationship first, and then just bless and release, right? Just bless it and release it, and then let it go. Because yeah, there was beauty in this relationship, this best friend. There was beauty in that, or this relationship with a significant other that uh, is no longer there. There was beauty in it at one time, and to look at that beauty and realize, yeah, and then I can let it go. I don't need to
Yeah,
fix it.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's definitely a coping skill to let it go. But I think sometimes I may have given up on things too easily. And that is more to do with career choices. Instead of fighting for something, I would just sit back and let things go. And in that sense, I look back with regret today. I have to say that especially where my singing is concerned, I just let things go. And time is one thing that doesn't wait for us. So in that sense, letting go is not always good. And
Mhm.
if you let go of things that could be good for you because you still have that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, um, subconscious thinking, then that is something also to be aware of. When if I would have had a different way of thinking, I probably would not let go of some things in my life. So there's the flip side of that as well.
Well, and all part of that too is like, A Course in Miracles talks about there's only two things. There's love and there's fear. Love and
Yep,
fear. So if you can look at your younger self and go, I understand that you were afraid. I understand that. It's okay to be afraid. I understand. And now I'm going to help you as an adult, being the age I am right now. I'm going to help us. I'm going to help all of these little me's inside of me that were afraid. It's under, you were young, you didn't have the experience, you didn't have all of that knowledge that you have now about success, and success is just built on so much sticking to itiveness to stick to
yeah,
it, right? So you didn't have that experience, you didn't have that background, but now I do, and together we will make uh, amazing things happen together.
exactly. Yeah,
Mhm,
it's such a joy when you get to that point where you can just breathe and let go.
mhm. And being
Yeah,
gentle with ourselves, forgiving ourselves for just we did our best. We did our
yeah.
best with what we had at the time. And others, right? Forgiving others as well.
That understanding that staying involved sometimes is not going to change the situation. I think it's more to do with other people. When it's only you, and come back to that I'm not good enough thing, it's different. But when there's a big situation that involves other people, and where staying involved is only really adding to a lot of disharmony in your own life,
Mhm,
that's time to analyze it and decide, I'm not, it's not, there's nothing I can do about it.
mhm,
I always come back to the serenity prayer, which I know you know very well, is to get that wisdom of discernment.
mhm,
When can I do something about it? And when do I have to let go?
mhm. Yeah, I agree. I've got it written on my wall here. What, when do I know when to let people go? That's what I have written there.
Yeah, yeah,
It's number one, pause. Number two, pray and pray, pray and pray. And then number three, who do I want to be? We
yeah.
said it all. Acknowledge the small me and tell her I'll help her get there. And number five, understand it may not be reciprocated, but it's as long as you've got your own heart in it, as long as you did the best you could, that's all we can do.
That's all you can do, for sure.
Mhm.
Well, Fran, as always, great discussion.
I know,
Feel
hey?
good discussion.
Yeah, yeah. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And
You as well.
yeah. And if you enjoyed our little conversation, make sure you subscribe. We always like it to get a few more subscribers here and there. And tell your friends about us too, because the more of us that are having a dialogue about letting go, about being in our higher selves, about changing patterns, the more the ripple effect will touch the world, because
For
each of
sure.
us is here for a reason.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Keep talking about hope.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Fran. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next time.
Thanks, Rita. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.